it is a really disorienting internal experience to know that you're a very action-oriented person and that you feel so good when you are in go mode, but to struggle taking action consistently over an extended period of time, especially as women. And the missing ingredient for women is actually often three missing ingredients. So number one is just basically working with your nervous system and your physiology as opposed to just being intellectually driven or spiritually driven. We actually need to work with your nervous system physiology. And then second is working with your female nervous system physiology, where a lot of somatic healing practices, things like yoga even, are pretty much all based on male physiology. So you can see some level of progress or feeling good in your body, but it often feels like it doesn't stick. And then lastly is understanding your nervous system archetype, because even within women, we will have women who are more sympathetically dominant, which would be a little bit more yang dominant. And then we have women that are more parasympathetically dominant, so more yin dominant. And depending on kind of what your baseline is, which also it can take time to find your baseline, because there's a lot of people like me, for example, I actually thought that I was very parasympathetically dominant, but it was because I was so frozen for so long. And as I started to thaw the freeze in my nervous system, I realized that intelligently my nervous system had been using freeze on top of the amount of charge and yang energy I had in my body that I just genuinely never had any idea how to actually hold. And so instead of completely shutting down, my nervous system would put freeze over top of it. But when we can kind of start to understand where does our body feel most safe, or there's like a correctness to what our resting place would be, that gives us a really good kind of baseline from which we can say, okay, if you are more sympathetically dominant, what we actually don't want to do is oversettle your system and try and force you to relax and overly slow down. We want to allow you to stay fast while adding in other inputs that can nourish your yin. So an example that I would give you, if I was working with you as a client, or if you're someone who's going to be coming in healthy hustle, if you're more sympathetically dominant, the things that I'm going to ask you to start to add in is number one, looking at the quality of your water. I'm going to ask you to start eating some more soup, no matter if you live in a hot environment or not. And I'm going to ask you to start to become a lot more aware of the way that your pelvis actually forms a grotto-like, oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for? A grotto-like shape in your body. Water, soup, collagen-rich, slow-cooked meats, this grotto-like body of water that we hold in our pelvis. These are all ways that we can orient towards and start to replenish yin without trying to douse your fire out, which actually is going to cause more dysregulation. Versus if you are more parasympathetically dominant, your body feels a lot safer not in action mode, and it's probably easier for you to relax. And so we have to show your system that it is safer for you to mobilize. And then for a lot of women, the women that I work with, there is a blended state. So there is a kind of like a state of functional freeze where you're both activated and frozen at the same time. And so right now you might have a sense of if you're more parasympathetically or sympathetically dominant, you might be kind of in the process of figuring that out. But no matter what, it is an important skill to have in life to be able to access mobilization on a consistent, regular basis over a 2, 5, 10, 15-year period. This is how we can show up to a movement practice. This is how we can show up as good mothers, good partners, good friends. This is how we also have access to where we have unconsciously been putting other people before us, because things like anger and rage are mobilizing emotions that are typically signs of boundaries being crossed, boundaries we don't even know that we're supposed to have. And so when we can start to see charge and activation as a skill set to develop, but also an innate capacity that exists within our nervous system, and see the intelligence in that, this is how we really start to heal our relationship with consistency, action, and discipline. And when we bring in the female physiology component of it, and we recognize that being consistent is a different internal experience for women, because let's just say a man and a woman are going to both show up to work out for the next 30 days straight. A man is going to have his 24-hour hormonal cycle, his circadian rhythm, and he's going to have what's going on in his life. And there's absolutely, men need to go through their own emotional cycles, and his biochemistry is more stable versus that of a woman, it is more cyclical. So showing up to the same workout on day 1 of your bleed versus day 1 of ovulation is a very different nervous system experience. And being able to be a well-resourced woman is so important in order to be able to show up consistently in a non-rigid way. So you need to be able to be in tune with your body to recognize, do I actually have enough capacity on day 1 of my bleed to do the workout in the same way that I do on day 1 of my ovulation? Maybe 1 month you do, maybe the next month you don't, and it's your responsibility. You have to take the responsibility of your female physiology to learn how to feel where your capacity is at, and also to recognize, how can I add in more inputs, knowing that maybe I am more sympathetically dominant, so that I can add more inputs in to help my body be more well-resourced, and vice versa. So this is the work that we're doing in Healthy Hustle. I am teaching a 60-minute masterclass on how to kind of map what your current relationship is with mobilization, action, and consistency in this masterclass tomorrow. So the masterclass is January 19th. And then I'm going to kind of map out the process for you of like, what do you need to know about moving through the process of healing your relationship with consistency using nervous system, and specifically female nervous system led practices, perspectives, and just kind of like the overall like system way of thinking about it.